So tell me, are the words of Jesus an instruction or suggestion? See, one interesting thing that's happening today is that the believers, the church, is outsourcing, giving over to other people a responsibility that Jesus gave. And that is when I read my Bible, in Matthew 28, Jesus gives Great Commission. And in there he says to go make disciples of all nations. Go disciple them. And as we look around the landscape of the church today, we see something very interesting that's taking place. The church has primarily and by and large outsourced, given over to others, the responsibility for making disciples. Yeah, the church today has left that up to the quote unquote professionals. When we want to see people converted so we can disciple them, typically what do? We have a crusade, we have a street meeting, we have this and we have that. And what do? We typically bring in the big guns, we bring in the big name preacher, we bring in this one, we bring in that one. Who are these people? These people are quote unquote professionals. So if we want to have a crusade, if we want to reach people, we need to call the evangelists. Okay, the evangelist has a responsibility, but here's what the responsibility of the evangelist is, along with all of the other members of the fivefold ministry. Who are these fivefold people? The apostles, the prophets, the evangelists, the pastors, and teachers. This is the fivefold ministry. This is also called the office gifts. What is their responsibility? Thanks for asking. Ephesians chapter 4 lets us know, right? After listing those office gifts, that they are for the equipping of the saints for the work of the ministry. Now, let's be really clear as to exactly what that is about, right? The office gifts, fivefold ministry, apostles, prophets, evangelists, pastors, teachers, the role there is to equip the disciples for the work of the ministry, to help to mature, to perfect, to mature the church. That's the role. Not to go and do the work of the ministry themselves all over the place. That's not the role. It is for equipping. I know we've gotten accustomed to the evangelist is the one who's preaching here and preaching. I get that. That certainly is part of the responsibility. But what if we took this radically different approach to things? What if we said, if the average believer would actually share the gospel with people, share with their friends, share with their relatives, share with their co-workers, share with their neighbors, share with people in the street. If the average believer would take on the responsibility of actually sharing the gospel and then actually nurture and disciple these people to come into the kingdom, to become believers, to become disciples, to grow. If the average believer actually did that, what a fantastic thing would happen. If one believer in the space of 1 year could minister to share the gospel with, would disciple one person, we see what's happening there. If everybody in a church does that, that local church could double in 1 year. But we're not doing that because we are not following what Jesus said to do. That instruction was not for a small set, an elite group. That's not who it was for. It was for all of us. All of us have the responsibility to make disciples. All of us have that. So let's get on board with the actual plan that Jesus gave us. Let's move away from thinking that I can't do that. That's for the experts, and that's for the professionals. Let's move away from that. Yeah, I know there seems to be a significant gap between what we sometimes call the clergy, pretty much today persons who are credentialed ministers, and the laity, which pretty much everybody else in the church. You see that gap? That gap doesn't belong there. That was never intended in the church in the first place. But we have the gap. Let's close that gap. Let's realize that we are in fact equipped to do this work. Let's stop outsourcing the worship, stop outsourcing the prayer, stop outsourcing this, and allow people to flow in the gifting that they have. And let's all take responsibility for making disciples. Let's get on board with the actual plan that Jesus intended for the church. Let us all actually share the gospel with people, nurture, and make disciples of Jesus Christ. God bless you.